My name's Ted Meyer. I live in Los Angeles, California. So living with Gaucher's disease is sort of an interesting illness because it's one of those conditions where many people have it to different extent. It can kill you when you're young, or it can be very benign all the way until you die at a normal age. So in my case, I was pretty sick as a kid. It waned a little bit after I got out of college, and then there was new treatment when I was in my late 30s. New treatment was developed by NIH at taxpayer expense, the sort of research that's being cut right now. So I find that very depressing. I wouldn't say there were a lot of obstacles to overcome. There's just a reality of it. If you're born with a chronic illness, you have a situation. You can either deal with it or you can complain about it. In my case, I just kept working with what I had to do. Now, luckily, my case was not so severe that it killed me. I don't have neurological problems because of it. But I did spend an awful lot of time in the hospital, and that gave me, as a child, I think, a very different outlook on life. For one thing, I was around adults all the time, from the time I was 5 until I was 18, and I tended to have conversations with them that I think most kids wouldn't have. Life and death, being patient, waiting for things to happen. Are you going to get better? Are you going to get worse? So I've never really thought of it as an obstacle. I've just thought of it as a variance from what a normal life would be. Well, one thing, when you're a sick kid and you're in the hospital a lot, you tend to learn that there are lots of people that are worse off than you. I would see kids when I was young with really bad illnesses, kids who would die, kids that were in constant pain. And even though I had a lot of pain, it would come and go. There's always somebody worse off, and enjoy life while you can. Take the time when you're healthy and do something with it. Anybody who has an illness, if they have any empathy, if they have compassion, which I think most people do, will understand what other people are going through more than a healthy person. As somebody who's now getting pretty old, I'm hearing a lot of my friends sort of complaining about things that I went through when I was 10, joint replacements, arthritis, being in the hospital. When you're younger and you go through this thing, people sort of give you this pitied look, but now they sort of expect some compassion from you, as they're getting old, because now it's a normal part of life. I've gotten lots of calls from people my entire life saying, my brother is sick, my sister is sick, she's got this and that, and can you talk to her? She doesn't know what it's going to be like to have a chronic illness. She doesn't know what it's going to be like to be under medical care on and off for years, and maybe you could reassure her or something like that. It's interesting, you sort of become this depository of information about how to work the system and live within the system. I started combining art and medical imagery when I was young. I had a volunteer at the hospital say to me, if you don't like being in the hospital, you can do artwork about it. And that was a very freeing sentence, because I was missing out on all the normal kid stuff. But I started combining art and medicine and made it part of a creative process, and that has gone all the way through to today, and that's part of why I'm here now. When I was really young, I had really bad experiences with doctors. Because what I had was so rare, they were always very excited when I would land up in the hospital, and the hospital near me was a teaching hospital. Really bad experiences with 10, 12 interns coming into my room and examining me and then talking about me, and they would say things like, oh, he's likely to die at a young age. He's going to have this problem. He's going to have that problem. And that stuck with me for years. And I decided I wanted to do something where I could affect medical education so that the doctors coming out of med school wouldn't do the bad things they did to me when I was a kid. I came up with a plan of mixing art, my one love, and the medical system, my other piece of information, figured out how I could combine them both, and I approached different medical schools, and luckily first UCLA and then USC offered to let me implement programs. The program I run at USC is geared toward first and second year med students, because my hope and my belief is if I can get to them early and make them realize that their patients are actual people and not hormone levels and not test results, that maybe 8-10 years down the road when someone is sitting with them, they will have a better bedside manner and they will have more compassion. And I do that by bringing patient art into the medical school and making the doctors talk to the artists about how the artwork they create speaks to their patient narrative, to their daily life situation as a patient. So I'm hoping that the artwork really sinks into the doctors in a way that maybe just hearing somebody tell their story wouldn't. We don't have a metric for whether the kids leaving the med school think back on a painting they saw or a conversation by an artist that they saw, but we hope it did. I have med students that I run into years after they've graduated say, oh, I remember that talk and that artist, and it really made me change the way I think. There is a difference in doctors when you go now than when my age. You know, when you walk out of a doctor's appointment now, they say things like, do you understand what I've told you? They didn't used to do that. They didn't care if you understood. They were sort of these gods. And I'm hoping that this whole idea of adding medical humanities, storytelling, visual art to medical curriculum will help move that along a little bit farther and faster. I have Gaucher's disease, which is a somewhat rare genetic illness. Mostly Ashkenazi Jews have it. It's a lysosomal storage disorder, which means I don't produce certain enzymes that other people do, and as a result, I have bone pain, bone infarctions, anemia. I don't really work with the patients. I am a curator, and my clients are the first and second year med students. I'm not an art therapist. I don't work with the artists. I find artists that are already doing work about their illnesses, and I give them exhibits and put their work out there for the world to see. My job is to teach the doctors to be better doctors, more compassionate doctors. I'll leave it to the patients and to do their own artwork. There's art therapists to work with them if they need it. But most of the people I work with don't need art therapists. They're already doing work about their illnesses. They're full-blown professional artists telling their story through art. The Scarred for Life project, where I print people's scars and put them on the wall with their narrative. A lot of times people see that work and they tear up. They want to talk about it. They know someone who had that procedure, that type of accident, that organ transplant. And there's something about seeing someone's scar on the wall, life-size. You know, you're one step away from the person. So that work really seems to resonate with people. They want to talk to me about it. They want to tell me about the person they knew who had that or the situation they went through and how they survived it. With the doctors, again, I don't really know their long-term reaction. There's no way for me to know if I bring in an artist with cystic fibrosis and they talk about having a lung transplant and they show their work about it, what it was like for them to have limited oxygenation going through their lungs for a while that they've depicted. Now, is the doctor going to remember that 6 years down the road when they're doing respiratory illness treatments with a patient? I really can't say. The main thing I can say is I'm hoping in the long term it makes a difference.